People from all over the world continue to pay their respects to Pope Francis at St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican City. This Thursday, as part of the plan to return to the homeland, new flight of the Venezuelan state-owned company Conviasa arrived with 316 repatriates from Mexico. The President of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, highlighted the country to rank in the most recent report on the evolution of poverty in Latin America issued by the World Bank. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We'll be with the news. Stay with us. People from all over the world continue to pay their respect to Pope Francis at St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican City. Public reviewing of the Pope's casket resumed on Thursday as the body of the beloved pontiff lies in state as part of the ceremonies to follow his death. According to the Vatican, close to 20,000 people attend the Basilica on Wednesday to visit a humble coffin that Francis chose to rest in. Due to the constant stream of visitors, the visit hours were extended past midnight, as the Vatican said it will consider longer hours to meet the demand. In this context, faithful at St. Peter's Basilica shared their impressions after giving their last farewells to the Supreme Pontificate.
Very significant. Pope Francis is very significant back in Ireland, and seeing him here today was really, it brought emotions, a lot of emotions. But it was lovely to see him today, and it was a great experience and really significant.
Yes, I was very emotional because, as I said before, the great silence brought me closer to him even though I didn't see him much because there were so many people. However, that emotion of feeling that we have the Pope in heaven praying for us, I felt that we are not alone.
Also in the Vatican, cardinals present in Rome after the death of Pope Francis held their third general congregation this Thursday. The event was a closed-door meeting to discuss the most relevant issues concerning the Catholic Church during the vacancy. Among other things, during this meeting, the cardinals organized the funeral ceremonies, read documents left by the deceased pontificate, and also exchanged impressions about the profile of the next pope. Decisions are voted on by secret ballots, and an absolute majority is required for approval. This Thursday, as part of the plan to return to the homeland, a new flight of the Venezuelan state-owned company Conviasa arrived with 316 repatriates from Mexico. Return to the homeland plan flights continues to arrive at the international airport in La Guaira State on this condition with 174 adults and 146 children and adolescents. This flight from Mexico is integrated by the families of migrants. It is part of the government's measures to protect the integrity of Venezuelans' rights that have suffered discrimination after massive deportation policies by the United States. Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez was received at the Great People's Palace in Beijing by her Chinese counterpart Hang Shen. During the meeting, they reviewed the bilateral agenda. They decided to strengthen cooperation within the framework of the strategic partnership to face challenges of a new world that fights against hegemonism. The Venezuelan delegation conveyed the affectionate and fraternal greetings of President Nicolás Maduro and reiterated the willingness to continue building a common destiny. In Beijing on Thursday, China and Kenya agreed to elevate their bilateral ties to a community with a shared future for the new era. The strategic move comes in the framework of Kenyan President William Ruto's visit to the Asian nation. In this regard, the Chinese President Xi Jinping expressed that his country is willing to work with Kenya to create an example in the all-weathered China-Africa community with a shared future for the new era and lead the development of bilateral relations and the forging of solidarity and cooperation among global South countries. China successfully launched the Chang'e 20 crewed spaceship on Thursday, sending 3 astronauts to its orbit space station for a 6-month mission. The spacecraft and the crew lift off atop a long March 2F rocket from the Yuquan Satellite Launch Center in northwest China at 5:17 p.m. local time. The Chang'e 20 crew will undertake a range of tasks, including space science experiments, application tests, extravehicular activities, and cargo handling. Let's take a very first break, but don't go away because we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Ecuador's National Electoral Council rejected on Thursday the recount of presidential votes demanded by the Citizens' Revolution Red Alliance. The Electoral Authority ruling declared without substance the claim presented by left coalition and maintained incumbent President Daniel Noboa as the winner of the elections. However, the head of the Electoral Council, Diana Tamain, said all political organizations still have the right to file appeals either to Council or to the Electoral Contentious Tribunal. On the other hand, the attorney of the Citizens' Revolution Retro Alliance, Francisco Estrellas, questioned the electoral body ruling and affirmed that the alliance will go to all the corresponding instances to continue with their claim. The President of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, highlighted her country's top ranking in the most recent report of the evolution of poverty in Latin America issued by the World Bank. The Mexican president points out that the data confirmed the positive results of the application of the model of shared prosperity despite discrepancies with the international organizations. In addition, Sheinbaum underscored the favorable impact of wage policy implemented by former President Andrés Manuel López Obrador together with the application of welfare programs in strengthening the income of popular sectors. Several unions in Panama are carrying out an indefinite national strike protesting against Law 462 of the Social Security Fund and for a higher quality educational system. Precisely, teachers, student movements, and other trade unions from many sectors demand the repeal of the law that reforms the Social Security Fund. The educators' unions continue with actions demanding salary and labor reforms and also against the presence of United States troops in the country. The professionals and social organizations that form the Alliance Pueblo Unido por la Vida described Wednesday's mobilization as successful in spite of the policy siege against the demonstrators. The President of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, left the state of internal commotion in the Catatumbo region in several communities of the department of Cesar. The emergency measure was declared last January due to the serious public order situation in that region as a consequence of the armed conflict between the National Liberation Army militants and the FARC dissidents. Despite the lifting, the president extended for 90 days, starting on April 25th, the validity of 11 legislative decrees issues during the state of exception. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the government and the M23 movement have agreed to truce in the conflict that has been in the east of the country. The deal follows peace talks held in Doha by both parties over the last week under the mediation of Qatar, where they reaffirmed their commitment to the cessation of hostilities. These are the first face-to-face talks between the two factions since last January, when the M23 offensive conquered numerous territories in the neighboring provinces of North and South Kivu. For part of the joint communique states, after the frank and constructive discussions, the representative of the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the March 23 movement agreed to work towards a truce that would allow the establishment of an effective ceasefire. Likewise, both parties agreed to respect the aforementioned commitments, which will open the way for a constructive dialogue to restore lasting peace in the DRC and the region. Finally, the state said that the representative of the Democratic Republic of the Congo at the March 23 movement expressed their sincere appreciation to the state of Qatar for its continued efforts and unwavering commitment to facilitate these peace talks that contribute to advancing the dialogue.
A sigh of relief for us, the inhabitants of Goma, the capital of North Kivu, where the M23 has set up its headquarters since the fall of the city. A few days ago, we heard that there might be disagreements between the two sides in Doha, and we who live here wondered, will we continue to suffer the ravages of war, the financial crisis, the economic crisis and growing insecurity? You know, it's not easy to live under a rebel regime. But when we think that there will be a peace agreement and a truce that will be observed, it's at least a sign of hope.
The Congolese government must remain vigilant, as the M23 has a habit of taking advantage of talks to occupy new territories. When a truce is announced, they advance. The government must adopt the same strategy.
In Pakistan, hundreds of people rally in Islamabad and other cities against the Indian suspension of key water sharing treaty. Protesters described the suspension of the treaty as an atrocious act. The decision comes after terrorist attacks in Kandrij, India, in which at least 26 people were killed. So far, the Indian government has presented no evidence directly linked to Pakistan's terrorist attack. In this context, the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, promises to trace and punish terrorists and their supporters for the attack in Kashmir that killed at least 26 people, most of them tourists.
I say to the whole world, India will identify, track and punish every terrorist and their backers. We will pursue them to the ends of the earth. India's spirit will never be broken by terrorism. Terrorism will not go unpunished. Every effort will be made to ensure that justice is done. The entire nation is firm in this resolve. Everyone who believes in humanity is with us. I thank the people of various countries and their leaders who have stood with us in this time.
We'll take our last break, but we invite you to stay because we'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back. In Palestine, the health ministry confirmed the death of more than 200 civilians in the last 24 hours as a result of Israel's ongoing aggressions on Gaza. Health authorities also report a Zionist airstrike targeting a former police station in Jabalia, which left at least 10 Palestinian civilians killed and dozens wounded. A recent report by the health agency states that since the resumption of the genocide on March the 18th, the death toll has reached over 51,000, while the number of wounded exceeded 117,000. The government of Lebanon demands an end to the Israeli occupations of the 5 hills of the country's southern border. The Lebanese President Joseph Aoun questioned the Israeli regime to vacate the territory to restore security and allow the return of displaced residents. The president also confirmed that the Lebanese army continues to deploy in unoccupied areas to make progress in clearing the remaining mines. On the other hand, Aoun announced the military recruitment to at least 4,500 new soldiers and to reinforce the military presence in the south in coordination with the United Nations Interim Force for Lebanon. Syria reports new Israeli attacks southwest of the city of Damascus, in addition to a ground incursion by Israeli troops with armored vehicles and military vehicles against villages in the area. Syrian citizens denounced violations by the Israeli occupation forces and called for an intervention to stop aggressions and blockades against farmers, herdsmen, and beekeepers who are prevented by Israel from accessing their lands. In the United States, several students were arrested at Yale University in Connecticut during a rally to protest the visit to the institution of far-right Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir. The visit prompted widespread condemnations from both pro-Palestinian organizations and liberal Israeli and Jewish groups as hundreds of students and faculty members protested outside the Shabtai House on Wednesday. In a provocative attitude, Ben-Gvir came out of the building he was in and waved to the crowd, which shouted condemnation at him. Spain scrapped a 6.6 million euros order for millions of bullets from an Israeli company after the union partners in the coalition government denounced as a flagrant breach of alliance agreement. Coalition allies of Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said the ammunition purchase jeopardized the country's efforts to hold Israel accountable for the genocide in Gaza. After recognizing Palestine as a state in 2024, the Spanish government said to be committed to stop arms trade with the Zionist regime. On Thursday, a student at the French high school stabbed 4 other students at his school, killing at least 1 and injuring 3 others before being arrested. The incident occurred at the private Notre Dame de Toussaint school near Nantes. The circumstances of the attack were not immediately cleared. A police spokesperson said there was no indication of a terrorist motive. We have come to the end of this news brief for teleSUR English and from the south of Marrero. Thank you for watching.